So I've spent the last few months studying how the biggest superstores in the world get their clients. And I've conceptualized it and simplified it in such a way that I've been able to apply it to the online space specifically for coaches. And I actually want you to steal what I'm about to share with you here today because I think it's a really interesting concept and something that not many people do. Nobody really looks at these physical, successful brick and mortar businesses and thinks about how we can apply those strategies and principles to the online world, which is what I'm about to share with you today. So, like I said, steal these superstore strategies and it's going to help you to make getting coaching clients easy. Now, the main stores that I've been looking at, right, are Harrods, Macy's, Selfridges in London, and some of the big casinos as well that you find in Vegas. I'm just going to make myself smaller here so I'm not in the way. But these are the main stores that I've been really looking at and thinking about, because when you think of these stores, you just think about money. These guys are just pulling in an absolutely insane amount of revenue on a weekly basis, millions and millions of pounds. And what I started to realize is that there is a reason behind that. Now, what I don't think many people really take the time to do is to sit down and think about why are they able to do it and how are they able to do it. But from sitting down and, like I said, going through it, conceptualizing it, there is actually an answer to those questions. And that answer is traffic. Right? It's all about how they deal with their traffic and specifically how they nurture, capture and convert that traffic, right? Now, when you're looking at the online space, most people are going to tell you to use a funnel, some sort of funnel, a sales funnel, a marketing funnel, either or. People are going to tell you one concept of that. And what's interesting is that you can apply these funnel principles to these online physical businesses as well, right? Because what you've got to think about is these physical businesses, their traffic, their leads that are going through their funnel are physical people walking through their stores, right? A funnel is designed to help you to capture leads or customers for those people, potential customers, the footfall, and convert those leads into a sale. Right, but what I've realized and the way I've been looking at it is that these guys don't actually funnel the traffic. They don't send people down a funnel with the intention of losing them at the bottom. They've actually developed something which I call a beaker approach principle. And again, it's just a different way of handling the traffic, which is why the way that you handle your traffic online and the way that these guys handle their traffic is the sole reason that they're making all the money. And this is what I'm going to break down for you today. Now, obviously, quick intro because you don't know me. My name is Alexandros for short. People call me Alexi. And long story short, what I do is I take the guesswork out of sales and marketing for coaches so that they can focus on coaching and so that they can grow with some consistency and some predictability because they're focusing in the right areas. Okay, and at the time of recording this, I've generated coaches multi-six figures in revenue. So you can trust that what I'm sharing here does have some knowledge and some experience behind it and that you are in good hands. And again, just to verify that, one example here is Jane, a relationship coach that I work with who had spent thousands on failed marketing attempts, and she came to me at about 5k a month. But after working together, she went from 5k a month to £17,000 in 1 month with only about £425 on ads. So the results of that speak for herself. Also, Susanna, a career coach, she came to me at the start of 2024, and in 2023 she'd made only 5k in revenue for her business. After working together, showing her the principles that I'm about to apply to you and show you here, she was able to make over £60,000 in revenue in the following year in her business, which was an amazing catapult. And also Dr. Stephen, a mindset coach, again, similar to James, he was doing pretty good. I had tried pretty much every strategy under the sun, like every strategy, and hadn't really got an amazing marketing return. We turned on this process, these beaker approach principles, and he was able to add an extra 5k a month in revenue to his business. So again, you can trust here that what I'm saying isn't just a load of rubbish. So let's start looking at this, because just like a coaching business, right, these superstores that you see can literally dictate how they turn their traffic into clients. So they can either funnel the traffic, right? They can even send them down a process and a principle of which we apply in our online businesses, or they can use a different concept, which is obviously going to maximize their revenue. Okay. And if you haven't realized already from what I've mentioned, big spoiler alert, it doesn't include complex funnels, okay? Let me explain why they don't use it and then how we need to approach that for our online businesses. So first of all, funnels lose about 80 to 90% of the leads that they generate. If you've ever run any type of funnel, okay, whether that's been for organic content, whether that's been for adverts, what you will find is that between 80 to 90% of the leads that you generate, you never hear from, they never get back to you, and they just disappear. They just vanish into existence, okay? Now, The important thing to note about that is about 80 to 90% of the market isn't ready to buy here and now, right? If you ever do any research on sort of customers and purchasing patterns, that's exactly what you'll find. About 80 to 90% of people won't buy from you right at this point in time. Only about 10 to 20% will out of absolute push. So what that means for you is that you are wasting 80 to 90% of potential business by funneling your traffic and using a funnel to generate traffic, generate leads, and convert those leads to customers. Okay, so what that means for you as a coach is it requires heavy follow-up or forceful sales tactics to make sure that you can make the most out of the traffic that could potentially disappear. And look, we all hate that, and especially for coaches, right? Coaches aren't salesmen, coaches aren't marketers, so you don't want to be doing that. So funnels just unfortunately make us act in a way that we don't want to act. And this is what I'm really trying to get across to here today, is that there is other ways to funnels. Funnels aren't the only way. Funnels are a concept that were created, and this is obviously what we'll get into. So whether you are a coach or whether you are these massive superstores that I mentioned to you earlier, you're obviously going to want to maximize the leads that you generate, right? It's as simple as that. You want to ensure that you can capture them and nurture the 80 to 90% of the traffic that you know is going to buy down the line. And you want to, as simply as possible, give people the best chances of buying. And again, it's such a small thing which is so overlooked within the space that people really don't look at, is that if you're spending money to generate leads or you're putting energy and resources into get traffic and leads, when you're funneling them, you're literally going to the mindset with a funnel is, let me generate some traffic full well knowing that I'm going to lose most of it. I'm going to lose most of the opportunities that come from it. It doesn't make sense. And this is really why it's important that we start to use these superstore principles to help us. So like I've said, the reason that these stores are doing so well is because they don't funnel their traffic, okay? And this is obviously what I'm going to explain. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say, but Alexi, funnels is the only way to get clients. There's no such thing as another way. And honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. People telling me that I'm making it up, I'm lying, funnels are the only way, there's no other way to get clients. Well, let me just explain something to you, right? Funnels are a concept, and concepts are clearly invented, right? The Google definition of a concept is an idea or an invention to help sell or publicize a commodity. Okay, funnels are a concept. This is what you need to understand. Funnels was something that we made up. They didn't just, when we all landed on this earth, funnels weren't a thing. We have made them up. So if it means they're made up, it means that there are other ways like funnels that we can get the same results and same outcomes. Funnels are a concept. They're not a law. They're not set in stone. There are other ways to do things. So when I went on Google, and I was just doing this out of more curiosity, really, I was like, all right, okay, who actually created the marketing sales of funnels originally? And they were created in 1898 by this guy. Never heard of him before, but you probably all know this guy. And this guy is the one who made funnels popular. He's a very smart marketer, but he's the one that brought funnels to the forefront and made them popular in the online world. And for 90% of people that are using funnels, whether you realize it or not, it has probably come from this guy. Okay. Now, just because this was made popular, it doesn't mean that we can't challenge the status quo. And this is what I'm trying to show you here, because although funnels are great, they are nowhere near the most optimal way for coaches in particular to get clients because of the reasons that I've broken down earlier. And again, in the online space, funnels have become the norm. But if we look at these big in-person businesses, like I said, they're not funneling their traffic. So this is really what I'm going to explain to you today. But I just wanted to explain to you that funnels are made up. Funnels are a concept. Funnels aren't real. We have designed them. So why don't we design something better that's going to work better for us, or in particular work better for coaches and their businesses, right? This is just keep that in mind. So like I said, let me just explain what inspired me to figure this out, and it all comes from actual floor plans, right? The actual designs of the stores. Okay, so like I said, like an online business, these in-person businesses can either funnel the traffic or they can apply a different principle. Now, like I said, funneling the traffic is all about how you take somebody that you don't know, somebody who's just seen you in your advert, for example, to get them to become a lead, opt in, give you their info, claim the freebie, book a call, then become a client and give you the money. Right, so it's just a process. A funnel is just a process of taking somebody new from a looker into a customer. Okay, it's as simple as that. And this goes for every business. It doesn't just have to be online. So if you look at like a food van, for example, the food van, if you find a food van in a public car park, they are funneling their traffic, right? They're just getting people to see that their food van's there. They're getting people to look at the menu, and they're getting people to then buy, and then the customers are leaving. And as simple as that. And now if the people don't buy from looking at the food van, the food van has no way of really following up with them unless they put in some complex system to somehow capture people's attention again and get them back to buy. Okay, same principles. Again, same with shops like Pret a Manger. They're not there to maximize their sort of revenue with each client, if that makes sense. And they're just funneling people through. It's fast food. They want you quick in, they want you quick out. Okay, what sort of brought to mind me the Pret a Manger is when I used to work in my 9 to 5, bit of a side story now, there was a Pret a Manger right next to my office. And I remember that there was 2 exits. There was an exit at the front, there was an exit at the back. And I just remember the constant flow of people coming in and out. People would come, they'd look, majority of people would leave, some would buy a coffee, but the flow would just be in and out. And this is sort of like that Pret a Manger that I'm referring to. I sort of designed it on a little thing here, like people just come through and they could leave. So it's like fun. You can still funnel people through in physical stores. Okay, it's just about how they design the actual floor plan. So the way that we would online, we would design like a follow-up system, or we do like an ad to a landing page, for example, to a calendar link. Like these stores can do it, it's just in a different principle, if that makes sense. So this is how these stores could funnel their traffic. And I was looking at these guys and I was thinking, these stores are clearly funneling because they're not optimizing on the 80 to 90% of the leads that aren't purchasing here and now. Because you see people that go up to these vans, go in these shops, majority of them don't buy, and if they don't buy, they're not likely to buy later. So this is what I was realizing. Okay, we don't want to replicate this, but the big stores aren't doing this, so what are they doing? And now the big stores are just applying different principles to their floor plans. Now, if you've ever been in Harrods, in Selfridges, if you've ever been in Macy's in the States, for example, or if you've ever been in like the big casinos in Vegas, which I haven't, but I've heard this from other people, and it applies to the same principles in the London stores, which I've obviously been to, is that when you go in the store, when you're inside, it's almost impossible to get out, right? And if you haven't experienced this, I encourage you to go to Harrods and just go in there and go to a random floor and look around and watch after a couple of minutes how you don't know how you got in there and you're chasing to find the escalators, right? Now, there's a very particular reason that they do that, because what these superstores have understood that these other smaller stores maybe don't want to do or haven't understood, and what the online businesses haven't understood, is that you can give people the absolute best chance of buying simply by how you design your ecosystem. Okay, so unlike Pret and the food van, where if you don't buy, you're gone, these guys understand that if they don't buy, we need to make sure we give them the absolute best, most optimal chance of buying, essentially. Right? How do we create an ecosystem? And this is how I created this beaker. Okay, because when you go into Harrods, let's say that you don't buy. The point is that you end up in here. Before you can find an exit, you're going to end up doing a couple laps of the store because you're lost. But because you're in their ecosystem and you're going around in circles looking at all their different products, if you don't buy right now at this point in time, you are more than likely going to see something or want something that you want to buy down the line. And that's the exact purpose of it. And if I even think back to my own experience, when I used to go into Harrods and I'd be looking around and I didn't really find anything, I'd always end up finding something that I wanted down the line. Every single time, right? Because when you're trying to, and I really do encourage you to go in here because it's so smart, but when you go in here and you're walking around, it's so confusing. There's no windows, there's no clear exits. You ending up at all the different stores in there and you're like, oh, that's nice. And then you start adding things to your list. And so what these guys understand that most online businesses don't do and these smaller stores don't do is that you need to make sure that the leads that you generate, the 80 to 90% of them that aren't ready to buy, you need to give them the absolute best of chance of buying down the line. So this new concept that I'm trying to show you and develop here is to show you that there is a way of generating leads online and nurturing them that ensures that they're not wasted and ensures that if they don't buy right this second, which a lot of them will, they will buy down the line. So it's about applying these similar principles. It's about getting them trapped in your beaker, in your ecosystem, so that they can and will be trapped and they will see something that they like for later and they can keep seeing your stuff and they can keep being nurtured by you. So it's just about changing the mindset and the approach that we have when it comes to generating leads, generating traffic and converting that traffic to customers. So like I say, instead of up here generating the traffic, knowing full well that majority of it isn't going to buy and just disappearing, it's about generating the traffic and trying to create longevity and sustainability in our businesses by keeping them in our beaker, keeping them in our ecosystem, constantly showing them who we are, what we do, how we can help them, and essentially teasing our products. And again, I'm going to show you how to do this in a bit, but this is the mindset that we need to approach. And again, like I said, with like Harrods and these stores, Selfridges, even the casinos, right? The casinos that are just trying to make you spend your money, they do it in such a way where it's hard for you to leave the ecosystem. And again, they want you to do that because it has the best chance of you buying something. It's as simple as that. So this is pretty much what we're trying to replicate. And really, it just comes back to this key concept that these stores pretty much understand that not every lead is going to buy here and now, but a large percent will be a buy down the line. So it's about how do you create something and set yourself up so that when people come to buy down the line, when they're ready to buy, you are the one and only option. You're the one that's in their mind. And this is the approach we need to take, because funnels just don't do this. And especially like when I'm talking with coaches and they're telling me about the funnels they've set up, I always ask them, where are those leads you've generated now? They're like, well, a lot of them, I don't even have their info anymore, or they're just sitting on an email list, but I'm not doing anything with them. I don't know how to nurture that audience. So this is why this is such an important concept, okay? And like I said, this is exactly where funnels lack, and exactly why the superstores do not structure their stores to funnel the traffic. And I did a video on this the other day, and I actually got like physical props to try and show this. But if you look at an actual physical funnel, right, imagine this water here represents your ad spend, your leads that you generate. Like I said, the funnel's designed to lose people. But why are we designing to lose? Because these are potential clients. This is potential revenue that we're wasting. Okay, so this approach is exactly what you as a coach pretty much need to replicate. And like I say, it's something that I call a beaker. And it's based off of these in-person superstores and how we can apply this online. Now, a beaker, let me just explain to you a little bit about what it does, right? So first of all, it removes the need for heavy follow-up, because you're creating an ecosystem where people are trapped in your environment, and they're, like in Harrods, it's harder for them to leave than to stay. Then, as well as that, the concept of a beaker is it stops bringing you leads that just want the free stuff, right? Because it's a different type of lead generation. It's a different approach to lead generation. We're not just giving out casual PDFs and ebooks and casual masterclasses that everyone else does, full well knowing that 90% of the leads aren't serious. It's about setting up a page that really attracts the right customers to you. And like I say, the key thing, it ensures you maximize every single lead that you generate. And then lastly, it pretty much creates an ecosystem that does all of the nurturing for you. So when you speak to leads, they're pre-sold and they're ready to go. It's as simple as that, right? And again, it's the same with these stores. If we come back to Harrods here, this is Harrods' floor plan, their actual floor plan. They don't need to do much selling. As soon as they get people in through the door, which is easy to do with what they do with their front-end marketing, they know that a massive percent of their leads are going to buy something because of the way it's set up, okay? And this is, again, like I said, what we're replicating here. So let me just get back to where we were. And again, these are some more guys that I've helped. So I showed you at the start, Susanna, Stephen, and Jane, who had amazing results with this beaker principles. We've also got Adelaide, a performance coach, who was able to sign a client for £12,000, one singular client, which I think is crazy, with this exact approach. We've also got Steve, a executive coach, who went from no idea how to get traffic online, really struggling with all the online strategies, to finding this extremely simple and booking calls, signing clients, and getting the business that he wanted. And also Trixie, a parenting coach, who again had no idea about funnels, had no idea about sales or marketing, but now understands what she's doing and has that peace of mind within her business. So the main thing that you're going to find is when you stop using funnels and when you start using a beaker, you can expect your business to start skyrocketing. You can expect it to start taking off. And this was the main switch that I took in my business. Now, I'm not a coach. I'm a digital marketer. I have a digital marketing agency. My niche is just that I help coaches. That's what I've decided to specialize in. But I apply the same principles to my business and the same mindset and approach to lead generation. And since doing that, like I say, things have completely changed for me. So most funnels, right, what you will see is that this is the flow, okay? So the flow is, you see an advert, you run an ad, you collect the person's email and phone number. In return, they get the lead magnet that you're offering. You then call up the lead, maybe. I know a lot of people don't, but you may then call up the lead. If you don't call them up, or if you have called them up and you don't answer, you also email them. And then because you're touching base with them and they just wanted the freebie, they just opt out, and then you lose the leads. And that traffic that you've generated and that money you've spent on the ads is just gone to waste, essentially. Now, a beaker, right? No opt-ins, no emails, no phones, no follow-ups to begin with. Now, I know a lot of people are going, oh, well, I want to build my email list. Let's just start with the fundamentals of getting people in, warming them up, building that connection. Then when you later down the line, when you want to collect their emails and things like that, you're getting people opting into your emails who are going to stay opted in and who you can nurture in a deeper level because they're not just opted in and then you're spamming them. So it's a different dynamic. So just keep that in mind. So the way that a beaker works is that there's an opt-in, one simple opt-in, and there's one very simple nurture process that is set up once. There's no emails, there's no phone calls, there's no following up with them a million times to try and get their attention full well knowing they just want the freebie. Okay? So how does this work for coaches and how can we apply everything that I've showed you here to online plus to your business, right? Because that's the key thing that you're here for. How do I copy what Harrods have done and how do I put it online? Now, the first thing that you really need to look at for your online coaching business is that your Instagram becomes your floor plan, right? This is the Harrods floor plan. Your Instagram now needs to become that. Your Instagram now needs to become the place where people are coming in, they're nurturing, they're seeing your products, which are your videos, your content, so to speak. And if they're not looking and ready to buy right at this point in time, they're going to want to buy later because of the way you've set up this floor plan. And it's a very strategic, very focused way of setting things up. But your Instagram is your shop front, right? Think of it this way. We, as online business owners, no matter what type of online business you've got, we don't have a shop window. We don't have physical customers coming in, walking into our stores. We only have digital assets, which we can then replicate into these floor plans to help us to get the clients that we want, okay? So what we need to do and the way we need to think about our Instagram, for example, or any social media is that is our floor plan. That is our actual physical store. That is the way that we're going to capture people, nurture people, and give ourselves the absolute best chance of people buying either now or down the line. Now, the other thing to consider, right, is that your bio, your content that you post, all of these things are they're like your products. Before you buy something, right, when you go into a store, you see it on the shelf, you look at it. If it's items of clothing, you try it on. If it's some type of food, you may sample it, for example. But these are our products, these are our samples, these are our testing that allows people to determine whether people want to look further into what we're doing and potentially work with us. As simple as that, right? So the way you set up your Instagram is absolutely key to help you to build that trust and build that connection. And the way you need to think of your social media is like it's teasing the sale. You need to set up your social media in such a way where it's so valuable and it speaks so clearly to your target avatar where they're like, wow, this person knows exactly what they're talking about. They know exactly the ins and outs of my situation. They're solving my problems in their content. They've got tons of results. This person is somebody that can help me, right? And by doing that, like I say, what you're doing is you're teasing the sale. You're warming people up to you. And again, what's going to happen from that is one of two things, right? You're either going to get people that come on your page and go, okay, go through that, perfect. They've walked around your shop front, they're in your ecosystem and they go, amazing, let me reach out to them and see how they can help, which is what would happen for a lot of you if you've properly set up your page, and this is what happens to me. But if it doesn't happen to you, what will happen is that people follow you, they stay in your ecosystem, they stay in your world, they stay in your beaker, and they add you to their wish list for later. And the way that we then nurture these people, something that the physical stores can't actually do, is through our content and what we post. So what starts to happen is that you need to start driving traffic to this page. So once you set up your page as your shop front, you have it optimal, it's solving your target clients' problems, it's giving them genuine value, it's showing them that you're a genuine expert at the topic, it's showing them that you've got tons of expertise, people are going to want to stay on that page, they're going to want to stay in your shop, so to speak, okay? So what we then need to do is that once that's optimized is we need to get as many people into our shop as possible. And the simple way of doing that is an advertising strategy that I've started to call evolved adverts, because they're an evolution of any type of ads that people have told coaches to do before. Like I said, no ebooks, no lead magnets, no freebies, no webinars, no masterclasses, none of that rubbish. It's a different way of approaching ads. And what we're doing is we're running adverts to drive the traffic to this shop front that you create. But it's very specific high quality traffic that is your dream clients. And because you can bring people in to the shop front through the adverts for them to have a look at what you and what you're doing, what starts to happen is that people can see whether you're for them or not. They can see the quality of your expertise and your knowledge, and you start getting extremely high quality followers into your page. So let's look at how these start to work. So the way that evolved ads work and the way that you generate the traffic to trap people into your page, to get them into your beaker, to be able to start nurturing whether they buy here or down the line, is first of all, you have to get extremely clear on your target client. So what that means, get clear on the pains, the goals, the things they hate, the things they've tried before. Okay, and these are the key elements you need to run an evolved advert that's going to work the best. Now, what you'll find is that with evolved ads, the way that I've found the most optimal way of setting them up is there's no call to action for a training. There's no ask for people to give us their details. Essentially what we're doing is we are simply inviting them to come into our store, like Harrods, like Selfridges, giving them the best chance of buying, plus giving us the best chance of nurturing plus converting them, okay? So the beauty of online is we can make them stay in our store as long as we please without getting arrested. Right now, if Harrods try to get people to stay in their store to give them the best chance of buy, I'm sure there would be a police trade, and I'm sure the people would not be very happy. But the beauty of what we do is that because Harrods can't do that physically, the way they do it is they set their store up in a way where it's hard for you to leave to give you the best chance of buying. But we can do it in a way where we set it up and we make people want to stay in our store, which is on our social media, which allows us to nurture them months and months down the line, as long as what we put out in our store, the products that we put up, the products that we tease to people are so good that they want to stay. Okay, so it's an interesting concept. It's a different way to doing it. And again, that comes back to this beaker approach principle about keeping people in your ecosystem and trapping them in this world so that they have the best chance of buying and they want to buy. So that is the beaker approach, right? And it's just, like I say, it's an approach and a concept and a way of approaching lead generation. Because, like I say, you can either generate your traffic and set it up so that 90% of the traffic just disappears and leaves your funnel and you never hear from them again. Or, like Harrods, like Selfridges, like Macy's, like the casinos, we can set ourselves up in a way and create our shops in a way, our shop front, our store floor plans in a way that makes it so hard for people to leave. But not because they can't physically leave, they can leave, but in a way where they don't want to leave, because what we're doing is so beneficial to them and so valuable to them that, like I said, we give ourselves the best chance of converting our traffic. And for the guys that I've worked with, I mean, you can come on my YouTube after this, go on my page once you finish watching this and have a look through at all the different testimonials and videos of the guys that I've worked with and the results they've got. That has all come from a beaker approach. So telling them to stop using funnels and just apply these beaker approach principles, create your shop front online, get people into the shop front, make it so good, make your shop so good that they don't want to leave. Okay, and that will give you the best chance of getting customers. And like the beauty of this, going back to like Susanna, for example, the career coach, she was a great example of this. When we were running these evolved ads, driving people to her Instagram, her shop front, getting her the leads, getting her the traffic, what would then start to happen is that obviously 1% of those people would buy here and now, like I said, but a big percent wouldn't. But because they were in her beaker, because they were in her Harrods style floor plan where it's you keep seeing the products, you keep getting teased, it keeps making you want to buy, she would get a lot of traffic that would come back months down the line and be like, okay, look, let's have a call again now. Or maybe they hadn't had a call before and they're like, okay, I'd like to talk now. So it's quite a unique approach. And I think one day it just sort of struck me when I was walking through Harrods again, and I was like, actually, there's some sort of concept here that I could copy online which would make my life easier, because I was using those funnels at the start and it was making my life difficult. But again, it's just an approach. So you can either be like Prot a Manger or that food truck where you get some eyes, you get some customers, but you lose the rest of them and you leave a lot of revenue on the table. Or you can be smart, you can be tactical, you can be precise with what you're doing, like Harrods, like Selfridges, and set up in a way where it's harder for people to leave or want to leave than to stay. And because of that, you nurture people, you capture people, you retain people, you build trust with people, which is important in the online space, which eventually, as a byproduct of that down the line, leads to you very simply getting more customers. Literally as simple as that. So I hope you found this useful, and I've got a few more things that might help you out. So let me just go through them with you now. So first of all, you'll find a link in the first pinned comment and in the description of this video, which has an option for you to book a call with me. So very simply, on that call, you can break down for me your situation, your coaching business, how things are going. And if we feel like there's a fit and we feel like I can genuinely help you, I can show you exactly how I can help you to create this shop front, this storefront like Harrods, help you to build that floor plan out and help you to create a marketing system which helps you to generate the leads and to keep and nurture the leads for now and down the line, so you can maximize your revenue and grow exactly like all the guys you've seen here. Now look, if you're not quite ready to chat, the other option is give me a follow on Instagram. This will also be in the description of the video. Come and join me in my beaker, so to speak, in my floor plan. But If you follow me, like I said, I've got loads of resources on there and trainings and things that I can send you to help you out. So if you are a coach looking for clients in a simpler way, without funnels, without worrying about sales or marketing, and just so you can focus on coaching, I do believe you'll find that very useful, as well as this channel, of course. And look, if you've maybe don't want to book a call yet, maybe you already follow me on Instagram, just make sure to subscribe to the channel if you find it useful. At the moment, I am posting content every single Tuesday, and I plan to do that for the foreseeable future. And I'm going to be sharing knowledge, insights, advice, and guidance on everything to do with digital marketing for coaches to help you to grow. So hope you found that useful. Hope that gave you something to think about. I hope that introduced you a new concept on how we can actually start to change the way that we approach lead generation, not just stick with the status quo of a funnel because it's been made popular, but actually look at ways that the biggest stores in the world that are making some of the craziest amount of revenue in the world for physical products, how we can replicate that, take that into the online space and apply it into our businesses to make our lives easier. And the key here is that when you set it up, it is 10 times easier than a funnel will ever be, because you don't need the complex follow-up, you don't need all the tech, you don't need the difficulty. It's simple. So I hope you found that useful. Make sure to subscribe if you found that useful, and I will see you next week on Tuesday. Cheers.